The warehouse smelled of rust and gasoline, its broken windows casting jagged shadows across the concrete floor where Captain Sarah Chen's team sat bound and silent. Lieutenant Marcus Webb could taste blood where they'd struck him during the ambush, and beside him, Sergeant Kim Rodriguez kept her eyes fixed on the door, calculating distances and possibilities. Their radios had been smashed, their weapons stripped away, and the rebel militia guarding them seemed confident that no rescue would come before dawn. It was 11:23 p.m., and every minute felt like an eternity as they listened to their captors argue in hurried whispers about what to do with American soldiers caught deep in hostile territory. The mission had been simple reconnaissance, but someone had betrayed their position, and now 8 highly trained operatives sat helpless in the dark. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Marcus exchanged a glance with Kim, searching her face for the same thought running through his mind. Captain Chen had been 20 yards ahead when the ambush erupted, separated from the team by a wall of gunfire and chaos. They'd seen her dodge into the tree line, heard her shout orders to scatter, and then nothing but the awful silence that followed capture. The rebels hadn't mentioned her, which meant either she'd escaped or worse, and Marcus forced himself to believe the former because Sarah Chen didn't leave her people behind. She'd trained them personally, pushed them through scenarios exactly like this one, always saying that adaptation and trust were the only currencies that mattered when everything went wrong. "Stay sharp," Kim whispered so quietly that only Marcus heard. "She's out there." The guard nearest the door suddenly straightened, pressing a hand to the radio earpiece tucked beneath his cap. His expression shifted from bored confidence to something else, something uncertain, and he barked orders to the others in a language Marcus barely understood. 2 more guards rushed toward the window, weapons raised, scanning the darkness beyond the compound walls. The prisoners tensed, reading the change in atmosphere like seasoned soldiers recognizing the moment before a storm breaks. Whatever was happening outside had rattled their captors badly, and Marcus felt his pulse quicken with a dangerous hope that maybe, just maybe, they weren't as abandoned as they'd believed. Then, through the static-filled radio on the guard captain's belt, a voice cut through the night. It was steady, calm, and unmistakably American. "This is Shadow 6 to hostile forces holding my team." Captain Chen's voice rang out with the kind of authority that made even Marcus sit up straighter despite his bound hands. "You have 60 seconds to release them unharmed and withdraw from the compound. This is your only warning." The guard captain laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the warehouse walls, and he lifted his radio to respond with mockery. But Sarah wasn't finished. "I should mention," her voice continued, carrying an edge of something that might have been amusement, "that I'm currently looking at you through a thermal scope from the water tower 300 yards northwest. And I count 14 of you against 1 of me. Which honestly seems unfair for you." The laughter died in the guard captain's throat. His eyes darted to the window to the darkness beyond, and Marcus saw the first crack in their captor's confidence. Kim's lips curved into the smallest smile. They both knew what came next because they'd trained for this, lived this, trusted this. Sarah Chen didn't bluff. At 11:47 p.m., the compound's floodlights exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging everything into darkness so complete that Marcus heard someone gasp. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions, precise 3-round bursts that spoke of expert marksmanship, and the guards scattered in confusion, shouting contradictory orders. In the chaos, Marcus felt hands at his wrists, cutting through the zip ties with practiced efficiency. "Stay low. Move fast." Sarah's voice came from directly behind him, no longer distant and electronic but real and present. "We've got about 90 seconds before their reinforcements arrive." The team moved as one organism, 8 bodies flowing through the darkness with the synchronization of countless training hours. Sarah had brought their weapons, somehow retrieved from the guard's vehicle, and pressed them into waiting hands without breaking stride. They could hear engines roaring to life in the distance, headlights beginning to sweep the compound perimeter, but by then they were already through the gap Sarah had cut in the eastern fence. The jungle swallowed them whole, and Marcus found himself running alongside his captain, branches whipping past his face as they put distance between themselves and the shouting confusion behind them. "You came back alone?" He managed between breaths, already knowing the answer. Sarah's grin was visible even in the moonlight filtering through the canopy. "Did you really think I'd leave you knuckleheads to figure this out by yourselves?" she replied, vaulting over a fallen log. "Besides, someone had to even the odds." They reached the extraction point at 1:32 a.m., where Sarah had somehow already arranged for an unmarked helicopter to be waiting with its rotors spinning. As they climbed aboard and lifted into the safety of the sky, Marcus looked back at the compound, now alive with searchlights and frustrated soldiers who'd let 8 prisoners slip through their fingers. Kim leaned close to Sarah, her voice carrying over the helicopter's thunder. "How did you manage all that alone?" Sarah checked her weapon, ejected the magazine, and allowed herself a tired smile. "Who said I was alone?" she replied, nodding toward the pilot who raised a hand in casual greeting. "Command said we were off books for this mission, but they never said we didn't have friends in low places." As the jungle fell away beneath them and the first hints of dawn touched the eastern horizon, Marcus understood what Sarah had been teaching them all along. A team isn't captured as long as one member remains free, and loyalty isn't measured in weapons or numbers, but in the voice on the radio that promises, without doubt or hesitation, that no one gets left behind.